Hey creators, if you're tired of your budget affecting whether or not you decorate for fall and Halloween, this is the video for you. This entire fall scene will cost you less than $10. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post new content twice a week. Let's go get creating. The first thing we're going to be working on together is the Hello Pumpkin pumpkin. I got the base at the Dollar Tree, and like all things at the Dollar Tree, it was simply $1. You're going to need some simple items that most people will have already in their collection, which are acrylic paints and paintbrushes and water. I also want to mention that I am not planning on videoing the small pumpkins just because it's a simple fabric wrap with pins and ribbon wrapped with hot glue. After you've primed and sanded your pumpkin, you're going to want to put a base layer on it. I would suggest not using a paintbrush quite as small as this one just because it shows its stroke so easy. For the orange that I chose, I did a jack-o'-lantern color from Apple Barrel and I mixed in some brown. After I let it dry, my pumpkin was a little bit too bright for me, so I mixed a few more colors into my blend of orange when I did my second coat, and I feel like this color was a little bit... While I waited for the second coat to dry, I painted the stem in a dark brown from the Craft Essentials brand. Using the same dark brown that I used on the stem, I freehanded some details, including going around the entire edge of the pumpkin, as well as adding some shadows on the pumpkin itself. I feel like this added a little bit of texture and made it look a little bit more like a realistic pumpkin. After I let the shadows dry, I freehanded Hello Pumpkin on the pumpkin itself, and then once I liked the placement of it, I used a black in the Apple Barrel brand acrylic paint and I painted over my sketch line. So like usual, my battery died while I was making the highlights behind the black script, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I tried to make sure that they're on one side of the line to show the direction of the light, but honestly it's just personal preference at this point to what exactly you want your script to look like on your pumpkin. The last couple of minor things are just personal preference. I wanted to darken up some lines and add a couple more details, but like I said, this is your pumpkin, so make it however you want, and that was just $1 for a really cute pumpkin to add to your fall decor. So creators, our next project is going to be a triple stacked pumpkin welcome sign. For my aesthetic, I wanted to do like a cornflower blue on top with a medium orange and then a gold at the bottom so that they match some of the other pieces, so that the pieces that we make today, if I want, I can put them all together, or I can have them separately throughout the house but still have some cohesion. I like to mix my own colors just to have a little bit of uniqueness, even if it's a project that's similar to another person's. No one will get the exact same color that I mixed together, and this orange that I originally chose, I saw it and it was much too bright, so then my second and third layers I made sure to dim it down a little bit to match the temperature of the other pumpkins. As I was doing the second layers, I made a bad decision of trying to put a little bit of gold on top of the blue pumpkin, and it ended up just making it look like a blue pumpkin that was muddy. So once I get to the third layer of paint, I decided to paint right over it and go back to a little bit darker version of the cornflower blue that I originally started with, and I was much happier with how that ended up looking. For this welcome sign, I wanted to make sure that I measured out each letter so that it had a more precise look to it rather than the free-spirited way that I tend to do script normally, where I just kind of eyeball it. This time I made sure that each letter was about 1.5 inches wide, give or take, and the height of them, they are 2 inches tall with 1/2 inch in between them. I did freehand the letters themselves, but the basic size of them are all roughly the same. After I finished with the size and shape that I wanted for the letters, I went back with the paint pen that I got from Walmart. It was about $1.99 in the craft section, and I thickened up all of the letters and added a couple style shape details that I didn't have previously. Once all of the letters done, the pumpkin is all set to be displayed. I am planning on putting it inside in my living room, so I didn't worry too much about putting a varnishing spray on one. But if you are going to have it outside, I would suggest that you put a sealant on it so that the rain won't affect your paint job. Our last project is a jack-o'-lantern mason jar. Like I told you in a previous video, I love mason jars. So this is my favorite project that we did. I went through several iterations of what I wanted to do. I was thinking about doing something with fireflies or something with a sunset, but then October started and I figured we should just go classic jack-o'-lantern. As with our other projects, you want to prime and sand so you have a nice surface to work with. I then painted the mason jar a medium orange and started to sketch out what exactly I wanted my jack-o'-lantern's face to look like. I also added some 3D aspects so that I knew exactly where I wanted to put my next layer of orange. After I sketched out his face, I used a canary yellow to show where the glow is coming from within the jack-o'-lantern. Once that was completely dry, I mixed together a deeper orange. This is going to be the final color of the pumpkin mason jar. And then I left room for the 3D cutouts, and this makes the mason jar look a little bit more three-dimensional, and it also gives it a little bit more texture rather than just being a plain flat image. Once that was completely dry, I took the fine point paint pen that I purchased at Walmart. That was a lot of P's, and I outlined the outer edge of the jack-o'-lantern's face. Once I got to the bottom of it, I noticed that I accidentally spilt a tiny bit of water on the bottom of the face, and this caused the paint pen to bleed a little bit. I did try to correct this, but throughout the entire project it just bled in that one spot. It's okay, it's supposed to be a little bit off center and not quite so perfect, so I'm okay with it. For the inner edge of the pumpkin cutout, I wanted to make sure that I did outline it, but the paint pen was much too thick, so I ended up just using a Pilot R3, which is a pen that I tend to write with in general, and it ended up working out pretty well. It did bleed a little bit more than I expected it to, but like I said before, this is for Halloween, so if it's a little bit messy, I'm okay with that. Once you finish outlining, your pumpkin is all done, unless you plan on putting it outside, and then I do suggest that you varnish or seal it in some way so that the weather doesn't affect your final piece. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post new content twice a week. I think that I'm going to be changing that to Wednesdays and Sundays, and I hope to see you next time.